Hi, and welcome to the show Podium. And this week is the very last session that we have now with Rudi Kennard, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have him on the show for the last 5 weeks. And just before we go over to the conversation which we're having around all things sports performance, I just want to say this one is really very special. It gets to the heart of the matter in terms of perception, our reality, and that Rudi talks about it being a construction and not an instruction, and that the power is in understanding the difference. So just before we go over to that interview, I just want to introduce Rudi Kennard. While training as a track and field athlete, Rudi attained a sports science honours degree and went on to become a personal trainer and fitness coach. It was around this time that Rudi appeared as a contestant on the TV show Gladiators, which led him to study many mental performance strategies like NLP, clinical hypnosis, and mindfulness. 14 years ago, Rudi came across an understanding of the nature of experience, termed the 3 principles, and has since then given training in over a dozen countries, spoken at international conference, on the radio, and served many populations from corporate executives to school children and jail inmates. So let's just go straight over to that interview now. And just taking that a step further, I think we are caught in a behavioural performance model, certainly in the UK, that we're looking to change behaviours and responses and deal with them and work on them. And we're missing the trick, it seems, to see, well, where is that really coming from? What's the nature of it? What's behind it? And so it seems to me that we're completely missing the mark by not looking at the source of those behaviours. And there is so much done, I think, in the world of sport in terms of consequences and coaches giving consequences for poor behaviours, if you like. And we hear a lot of off-field poor behaviours. And never really realising what's the cause of that. And we write off people, we write off athletes, we write off coaches because of one behaviour that they've got caught up in as a result of their thinking, that they saw that thinking as real and significant, and that they needed to do something. And they didn't understand that if they just left it alone, it would flow, and that they didn't need to respond and they didn't need to do anything about it. And certainly then behave from that space, that low state of mind. To me, that sports people do not see this ebb and flow of thought in the moment. They see it as solid and real, and that there needs to be something done with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when you look at the nature of experience, whatever... Okay, when I use the word thought, another word for thought could be our perception. So whatever we think, whatever anybody thinks, it really looks real. Now, it may not be real, but it looks real. So whether you think you're the most useless waste of space in the known universe, that's going to look real. Whether you think you're the most amazing person in the universe, that looks real. Or if you think you're a bit of both, that looks real. So whatever we think appears to be true. Now, thought isn't an instruction on reality. It's a construction of a perceived reality. Mm. Now, as thoughts seen as constructive, like, have you ever thought something and then changed your mind? Have you ever thought something about a certain person, then only proved that that was incorrect? Like, whatever we think looks true to us. But again, and it's going to feel true. Now, this understanding isn't going to stop making it look real and feeling true. It's going to give us perspective that, oh, I'm thinking this and I'm feeling this. but I just need to hang on here because this is a construction of my mind. And so seeing thought as a construction of this human experience is really powerful, you know, because it's like I had dinner with an American couple and I asked them about Donald Trump recently. I thought, well, what do Americans think of Donald Trump? What's going on in America? And one of them was pro-Trump. The wife was anti-Trump and the husband was pro-Trump. And they both looked at one another and I could feel like an argument about to brew. And then the wife just said, well, we've got very different opinions, but we've decided just not to talk about it. And so they didn't talk about it. Now, that's wisdom, because you've got... It's actually my friends Will and Gabby. So Will thinks this, Gabby thinks that. Now, whatever either think is going to look true. Now, the thing about understanding thought as a construction rather than an instruction is that you realize, well, if I think my thinking is true, well, so does everybody else. You've got, like 7.2 billion people believing that they're right. Now, the truth isn't in who's right or wrong. The truth is realizing that everyone thinks that they're right. And having that respect for diversity allows you to respect that other people think they're right. Why? Because, well, we think we're right. Everyone else is just doing the same thing. So you can just respectfully disagree without having to argue, because all an argument is getting people to think like you. But when you don't need people to think like you, again, you've got unconditionality, because you can be with people and hang out with people who have different opinions from you, but you don't actually need to talk about it. There's an unconditionality that goes beyond beliefs to this respect and embracement of diversity behind things. And I know my girlfriend has very, very different thinking from me. And whereas before it would have been a problem because I need her to think like this about that, I don't really care, because how someone thinks doesn't have to make such a big difference, because there's that connection, there's that signal beyond the noise of thinking.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Back to mental strategies is, if thinking changes in a positive way, that's really helpful for people. So there's nothing wrong with doing anything. There's just a paradigmatic difference, meaning that as the logic of having to add thinking to thought to try and get rid of thinking becomes realized, you see the logic of, oh, the less I do with my thought, the quicker it generally goes on. So there's a logic behind how the human mind works. It's not that you have to trust in it or have faith in it or even believe it. It's just that the less going on, there's a lot more. I mean, there's research into athletes, entrepreneurs, astronauts, corporate executives. And the question was, when do you have your best ideas? It wasn't when they were overthinking. It was playing golf, having a shower, on holiday and driving. All of those activities are relaxing. So again, you have to work, you have to increase your skills, of course. But what we fail to bring into the nature of human experience is a respect of just allowing yourself to be, having some time for reflection. Because in that time of not really doing much, like as a metaphor, if you work out in the gym, you're stressing your muscles, you're fundamentally tearing muscle fibers that will regrow back stronger and thicker. Your muscles are not growing when you're working. However, in the rest period, they grow. So we need to get a balance between working and relaxing. Relaxing is a pivotal part and state of mind. And one in which, as we truly relax, we have insights, we have new awarenesses, we get perspective. And so seeing the constructive nature of thought and seeing that we only work one way, we experience that thought in the moment, what's happening, and the less we do to our minds, the quicker it self-corrects. And having just some time to relax is really, really helpful for us.
For so many years in sport, we've been working on the performance, on the body, and we've only touched on where does performance come from. And when I ask myself the question of where are the performances stored when I'm not using them, it helped me to see, because each time we go out, we're trying to improve our last performance. Well, if that last performance was so concrete, where is it? Where is it? What's it made of? Like, where's it stored right now? And it really started to help me to see the in the momentness, the fact that something comes from nothing in every moment, and human performance is no different. And in actual fact, when we're working to improve a previous performance, that previous performance is no more because it was only ever in that moment. And so the performances we're working on now in this moment are fresh. They're fresh. They're coming from an evolved state. Even if it's just a week's worth of training, week's worth of experience, it's not the same moment as before. And so we used to do so much performance analysis, scrutinizing our decision making, our positioning, and now I see that there's a lot for us to see in terms of spaces and angles, and I put that in the realm of skill. But there's little point for me to go back and analyze what it was I was thinking then that made me produce that ball, and what can I learn from it. That was the performance from that state of mind, from what I was seeing right then, and it actually has very little to do with what I'm going to do a week from now.
Yeah.
And I do think that when performance analysis came in, it was the new big thing to analyze past performances so that we can somehow learn something about the future performances and performing better. But I think we just completely misunderstood what it was we were doing.
Yeah, I love that. That's another really good point, because a lot of issues, I know when I was an athlete, if I underperformed and I had to perform again, I would still be thinking of my underperformance, and it really, bugging me out. But I thought I had to think about it, and I thought I needed to judge myself and be critical of myself because of it. So kind of what happens, again, there's more noise in the system, and there's not less signal. There can never be less signal, but it's more covered over. And so I think with this understanding, it isn't saying don't think about the past or past performance. It's just saying that whatever you think about, you experience now in this moment. So the potential is you could underperform and you could then just go on and keep playing without too much thinking about what's already happened, because it's already happened. It's like if you put a cake in the oven and you burn it, like you can't unburn it. No matter how much thinking about the cake, you can't unburn it. It's burnt. So why keep doing anything to it? And so I love that, Denise, because in the moment to moment nature of sport, it becomes insightful. It becomes logical to keep thinking of what has happened, because there's this moment now. And this moment is a different state of mind moment to the last one. But if we're carrying our previous state of mind with us into this moment, again, you just got more noise in the system.
Yeah.
And I know, because we're going to finish soon, but I shared this with earthquake survivors in Nepal who were traumatized from the earthquake, meaning they had thinking of what happened, creating a feeling now. That's what trauma is. And they had future thinking about it happening again, because there's this big thing that this is only a precursor to a much bigger earthquake. So they had past and future thinking carrying around in this moment. And metaphorically, it's like walking around with a massive backpack full of stones. Now, they thought it was helpful to think about the past to try and resolve it. But in actuality, what we're saying is don't think past. We're not saying don't think about the past, don't think about the future. We're just pointing to the neutral logic is that whatever we do, we feel it now. Past thinking, future thinking. It's not saying don't think this, don't think that. It's saying whatever we think, we feel it now. So it becomes illogical to just keep thinking stuff, putting rocks in our backpack. Because the thing about this wisdom or this innate system within us, as we calm down and get perspective, we have insights about what had happened that can really shift us. We can give it a little bit of thinking, of course, but when we kind of like let it go and allow something insightful to come from what's happened, we get something quite often that's really helpful, a download from the internet that we wouldn't have from keep messing about on our own personal hard drives.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Well done, Rudi. That's lovely. Lovely metaphor, I think, there to finish that little piece. Very good. Well, what a wonderful series we've had with Rudi. And here we are on Christmas Eve, and I just want to extend my warmest wishes to all of our listeners and sports people and alike everywhere. This has been an amazing time. We have one more session next week on New Year's Eve before we go into 2018. So I just want to thank you so much for listening in. Do get in touch with Rudi if you would like on www.innatewellbeing.co.uk, or you can contact myself, denise.holland@class-performance.com, or you can just look on my website. There's lots of things on there now, www.class-performance.com, and you'll see now that all the podcast shows are put on the website every week. So that just leaves me to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and I look forward to learning and sharing with you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.